Welcome to Dear Grandchildren, a Tracker's Tale. I'm Michael Douglas, your guide on this journey into the heart of nature and the wisdom that it holds. Here, we blend the ancient skills of survival, tracking, and foraging with modern insights to help you reconnect to the wild within. In each episode, we'll explore timeless practices, share life-changing stories, and discover how the natural world can bring you mindfulness, resilience, and purpose. But this podcast is more than just a show. It's a community. Be sure to subscribe on Apple Podcast, where you'll find exclusive content, question and answer sessions, bonus tales. For those seeking a deeper connection, explore our workshops and experiences, or even bring me to your community for an unforgettable adventure. Now, let's step off the trail and into a possible nature experience that could change how you see the world. Let's begin. I'm your host, Michael Douglas, and today we're diving into something that goes far beyond survival techniques. We're exploring how to craft a better approach to life itself. This isn't just about starting a fire or building a shelter. It's about rewiring your primal operating system to thrive in dynamic worlds. Whether you're here for survival tips, ancestral wisdom, or just a fresh perspective on living fully, I've got you covered. So, let's get started. I'll often tell my students during our 5-day courses to write a promise to themselves. Don't change your relationship status or quit your job for at least 2 months after the course ends. Why? Because survival training awakens something deep in your DNA. It's more than rote memorization or watching YouTube videos. This is about rediscovering your genetic predisposition to engage with life fully. When you awaken this part of yourself, you crave a dynamic landscape, not a static one. Life becomes exhilarating, terrifying, and joyful all at once. But here's the thing. Life is hard. Whether you're playing it safe or diving head first into the unknown. So why not choose to engage fully? You know that old term, the safest place for a ship is the harbor, but ships weren't made for harbors. Mom had it right all along when she said, go outside and play. It's the best therapy and education there is. Play, it isn't just for kids. It's how we learn. It's how we adapt and thrive. Well, through play and pain. But we don't need to go searching for pain. It often finds us as it is. We can construct or reinvent or rediscover that sense of play. Sadly, as adults, we've forgotten this, but survival training brings it back to the forefront. So my challenge to you, go camping. Put yourself in a controlled scenario and make it fun, safe, and engaging. Remember, learning happens best when we're playing. Maybe you bring out your tent and you commit to making a quick shelter or a debris hut or a bough mattress that you can sleep directly on with your bivvy in your sleeping bag. When's the last time you slept under the stars? So let's talk about survival's original meaning. It comes from the Latin word supervivere, meaning to live beyond. This isn't just about enduring hardship. It's about thriving, living a full, meaningful life. Survival is an investment in your personal greatness. It's about quality and craftsmanship, whether you're building a shelter in the woods or managing your finances in the modern world. The key is to start small. Instead of waiting for a real emergency, create controlled challenges. Make a game of it. Test your skills, refine your systems, keep it fun. Fear might shut down your learning, but play opens up the doors to awareness, creativity, and problem solving. Now let's dive into 6 critical tools that survival training teaches us. And these aren't just for emergencies. They're actually life tools. The first one is your effectiveness. Your effective use of timing and energy is critical. See, these are the things that we invest in all systems, from the natural world to the most evolved cityscapes. The time you spend and the energy you invest is what gets charged on that bill at the end of the month. In nature, it's calories instead of dollars, and it's the most efficient model that we know of. Our systems are superimposed upon the top of supporting natural systems. So whether you're gathering firewood or managing a project at work, your personal investment matters. If you don't feel connected to the process, you're likely to neglect it. It's about staying sharp and invested, like a seasoned sailor staying vigilant to avoid unnecessary hardships. The next tool is efficiency. Efficiency is about you getting the most out of your efforts. Trackers, for instance, learn to move like coyotes, taking paths of least resistance. In life, this translates to minimizing waste and maximizing output, embracing craftsmanship and quality, with this idea that less is more. Ask yourself, how can I streamline my systems to create better outcomes? Tool number 3, craftsmanship. Craftsmanship is about the art of making something well. It's an emotional investment born of experience and commitment. When I started pottery, I learned that 2/3 of success lies in the materials you choose. Over time, I developed an instinct for recognizing good resources based on the landscape. This same principle applies to every craft in life. From building relationships to solving problems, the more you hone your skills, the sharper they become. The number 4 tool is purpose. Purpose is your steering mechanism. Without it, you're adrift. What gets you out of bed in the morning? What fuels your drive? Survival training helps you rediscover your purpose. Whether it's through building a shelter or navigating a personal challenge, when you align your actions with your purpose, life becomes more fulfilling. Tool number 5, priorities. Setting priorities helps you focus your attention and your actions. In survival, choosing the right location for a shelter can mean the difference between comfort and misery. In life, setting priorities can mean the difference between success and burnout. Start with small wins, like reclaiming healthy sleep cycles, and build from there. Tool number 6, and this is an important one. You're going to hear this throughout the podcast. Gratitude. Gratitude is a powerful tool for resilience. It reminds us to appreciate both the gifts and the challenges in life. Survival training teaches us to respect the cycles of life, to see every meal, every resource as a gift. We have to kill every day in order to survive. Now, if you're somebody who would rather pay somebody else to do it, at least track what that means so that you can live a more purposeful life. This awareness fosters a deeper connection to the world around us and keeps us grounded. I want to talk about anchors and waypoints as we continue, because without them, you're going to be adrift like a ship in the sea with no rudder, no sail, subjected to the currents of external forces. Anchors are what keep you grounded. They're your values, relationships, and purpose. Waypoints are the goals you set along your journey. They're fill in the blank. Picture your ecological ideal, which is a combination of your best self immersed in your best experience in life. Those are your waypoints, right? Take inventory of your anchors. What motivates you? Who do you love? These are the foundations for everything you build. At the same time, set waypoints that challenge you to grow. If waypoints are the goals you set along your journey, And anchors are what you keep your solid footing on. Together, they create a balance between stability and growth. At the same time, though, you want to set waypoints that challenge you to. Just remember to maintain balance. Neglect your anchors, and you risk losing your foundation. Neglect your waypoints, and you risk stagnation or burning excessive calories and time, moving in a direction that needs to be corrected. Each day is an opportunity to evaluate your progress. Did your actions today build a healthier you? Did they strengthen your relationships? These daily check-ins are like navigating with a compass. They keep you honest with yourself and on course. Survival, there are many approaches, and with each approach is a different outcome. You're going to have your own unique approach. I would ask you to consider at the end of the day, looking in the mirror and tracking how that approach worked for you. And then before falling to sleep, putting in your mind a pre-programmed promise to adjust your sail, your rudder, adjust tack so that you can have a better direction than the day before. Survival isn't just about emergencies, folks. It's a way of life. It's about reclaiming your primal wiring and use it to craft a better, more fulfilling existence. By embracing tools like effectiveness, efficiency, craftsmanship, purpose, priorities, and gratitude, you can transform not only how you survive, but how you thrive. So, I want to ask you to consider a challenge as you go outside and play. Reconnect with the world around you and start crafting your best approach to life. And remember, this journey isn't about perfection. It's about progress. All right. I know you're ready to go out there and play, but I want to give you a little bit of architecture to hang your hat on. Something that you should consider. You used to do this as a child anyway, but I want you to consider approaching your play with the idea that you're going to recreate your life-sustaining systems to the level of comfort when you go out there. Now, what does that mean? Life-sustaining systems. Well, it starts with your attitude. Your attitude is born of, number one, choice. I will choose to go outside. I will choose to practice a skill. I will choose to step outside of my comfort zone. We'll explain more on that later. And then the last part is awareness. I will increase my awareness of how cold I get when I try to go outside in a cotton t-shirt. I will be more aware the next time I encounter poison ivy. Boy, that was an experience. But there's also the cool stuff. I am aware of how to make a shelter that doesn't leak, which means I can keep the rain off my head now, no matter where I am, using natural materials or man-made materials. We could shave years off of your development, off of your practice. And that's the intention of this podcast, reclaiming your ancestral skills, because you used to build forts, didn't you? You used to pretend to be an animal or play predator-prey games or build bows and arrows or spears. You see, we all have this pre-programming, our genetic memory from our ancestors to engage in the world in a fashion that helps us to shape our life-sustaining systems. So go out there with an attitude of exploration, curiosity, challenge, and safety. Let's not get too crazy. But while you're out there, can you craft a shelter that'll keep the rain off, the wind out, and you off the ground enough that you won't get cold from the ground? Can you do it without a knife or a rope or the need of a fire? Right? So we have to explore what that means, our life-sustaining systems. Well, shelter is number 2, if attitude is number 1. And number 3, well, number 3 is water, followed by number 4, fire. In today's world, they're intimately related because, well, now we have to boil our water in order to make it safe to drink. So water and fire are intimately attached. When I'm looking at an area in Maine, I'm not too worried about finding water. We're water rich. However, in some places, fire is a challenge. So my attitude is still playfulness, but it becomes a chess game, right? I'm not shackled to this list as a command series of actions: attitude, shelter, water, fire, and then the last one, food. If there are berries or an apple tree from an old farmstead that has all but been, shadowed out by a forest that's grown up over the last 120 years, but it still has some apples, I'm going to pick those apples and bring them with me. If anything, I could use them for bait to get that fat raccoon that hunts those bullfrogs. And that mentality of attitude, shelter, water, fire, food is always scrolling through my logical mind, so that my sensory input, the information from my hearing, visual cues, what the tracks are telling me, the sensory input of the wind shifting, the whisper of pine trees versus the rattle of oaks, all of those things are coming in faster than thought. But they're feeding me the necessary information that I need to support that scrolling list: attitude, shelter, water, fire, and food. And your body will give you information on how you're doing with each of those if you keep that list scrolling. I'm cold is a comment on shelter adjustment. I'm hungry is a comment on food calorie intake adjustment. And if you have the thought, am I dehydrated, or am I thirsty, or should I drink water? The answer is always yes. And there are other ways, of course: checking capillary refill, to see maybe the topography of the back of your hand, the venation as you lower your hand or raise it above your heart, tracking your urine output, skin elasticity. There are many ways to check dehydration. But again, if you're checking, drink water. Because the first thing that goes when we're injured is our awareness. And remember, awareness is one of the foundation pieces for your survival attitude. Foundations can't be shaky. Build your foundation first, then drink that water. So, back to it. We're not using survival attitude, shelter building, gathering and purifying water, fire making, and gathering and hunting and fishing for food as a dogmatic, rigid practice. Instead, it's a living, scrolling list with little tick boxes near it. And every time you come to one of those categories, you play it against what your body and the landscape is telling. We're water rich here in Maine. It's a whole different story in the high desert in eastern Oregon and Washington. That is a completely different landscape. And while that scrolling list remains the same, as you start to create your support systems, you're going to spend a lot more energy and time regarding water than you would here. And that's just how it is. You have to adjust your behaviors based on what your body and the landscape are telling you. And this piece of survival, this is the awareness part. We're going to break down the 5 elements: attitude, shelter, water, fire, and food in depth, so that you have homework, strategies, quick tools, and tools that might need to be honed over a lifetime to better your expression of your waking state, so that you can sleep more soundly and perform more sharply, more acutely in the days to come. Survival isn't about suffering until you're rescued. It's about living to the fullness of your days and an expression of your gifts towards your passions, creating outcomes that benefit you, your family, and your community. Is there going to be struggle? There better be, or you're doing it wrong. Is there going to be dis-ease? Yeah, it's part of life. Life is hard. But life can be hard in I need to get on every single ride before the park closes. Or you can choose to be inured by fear, the uncertainty of the infinite unknowns, the what ifs. right? So let's rescript that. Here's the situation. You're standing in the wilderness, the air crisp and alive, surrounded by ancient silence that whispers wisdom. You have no tools, no phone, no guide, but you're not afraid. In fact, you have a sense of belonging. Why? Because deep within you lies an ancient knowledge waiting to be unlocked. Today, we'll explore how reconnecting with nature and mastering primitive skills isn't just about survival. It's about thriving, finding purpose, and truly living. My mentor was a man by the name of Tom Brown Jr. In the 70s, he was growing up in the Pine Barrens and he met his mentor, Stalking Wolf. The forest became Tom's teacher, and over time, he learned to move silently, read animal tracks as if they were pages in a book, and survive with nothing but the resources around him. But more importantly, he discovered something profound, a sense of belonging in the natural world, an instinctual connection that modern life had dulled and in some cases disconnected. Now fast forward 20 years. Tom Brown Jr. became one of the most important survival instructors in his time. His lessons rooted in understanding the brain's primal needs, attitude, shelter, water, fire, food, and all of them, when they make themselves manifest through your own hard work, a profound sense of connection and purpose. These needs are written in our DNA, yet most of us ignore them, leading to stress, anxiety, and a feeling of disconnection. The wilderness woke something in Tom that still lies dormant in many of us. And the question is, are you ready to awaken it in yourself? Over the past 36 years, I've walked this path, studying under Tom Brown Jr. and other masters of their craft. I've had the honor of training military personnel, mentoring scouts, and teaching countless students from all walks of life. My own journey began in the woods of Maine, where I founded one of the nation's longest-running survival schools. What I've learned is this: you're always going to feel like a beginner, and you always should. I learned that primitive skills aren't just survival tactics. They're a way to rewire your brain and rediscover your purpose, whether it's in the wilderness of deep nature or the wilderness of towering cities. We are all wired for this connection to the earth. It doesn't matter if you're a CEO looking for clarity or a parent wanting to guide your child toward resilience. These skills tap into a universal truth. Humans are designed to thrive in nature, and together we can reclaim that heritage. 36 years of learning and sharing, and I still see transformations every day, often within myself. It never gets old. People discovering strength they never knew they had. They're not just in survival, they're in a rediscovery of what it means to be human, of what it means to have a meaningful life, to what's important and necessary versus needs. Are you ready to listen to that ancient whisper within you? When's the last time you slept beneath the stars? Or in a shelter you crafted from the landscape with your own hands? Wouldn't it be cool if your level of craftsmanship could be cultivated toward having a comfortable overnight each time due to your skill level and experience? Some folks haven't touched the earth with their bare hands or feet in years, if at all. Yet, through a weekend of working your edge, whether it's shelter building, learning fire making, or tracking, you'll rediscover not just the land, but yourself. This modern world's created a paradox. We have everything at our fingertips: instant communication, instant entertainment, and comfort. But we've never felt more lost. Does this sound like a familiar story for anyone you might know? We've traded fulfillment for convenience and meaning for distraction. Through my years teaching survival skills, I've worked with professionals, high achievers who find themselves yearning for something real. Primitive skills are more than practical, they're transformational. They strip away the noise and rebuild the foundation of who you are. You're not alone in feeling this way. Millions of us crave a deeper connection, a sense of purpose that can't be found on a screen. In nature, we not only find ourselves, we find a community of like-minded seekers ready to support and grow together. Let's replace burnout with balance, distraction with focus, and emptiness with meaning. I invite you to rediscover what it means to truly live. I want to share with you one of the stories of my first full class teaching in Maine. A young father, James, came to our school after surviving a traumatic event. He wanted to find strength, not just for himself, but to teach resilience to his children. And over the 5-day immersion, I watched him transform from someone carrying fear to someone empowered by self-confidence. And it was based on a lot of mistakes and frustrations, but at each and every turn, he stuck with the skill until he found some degree of success. On the last day, as he lit his first friction fire, tears filled his eyes. He says, "I didn't just make fire. I found a piece of myself I thought was gone." That moment wasn't just about survival. It was about healing. This is what I've dedicated my life to, helping people like James discover their inner strength through the teachings of Tom Brown Jr. and Gilbert Walking Bull and Paul Resendez, all of the people that I adopted as elders because they were willing to share and they had something to teach and they didn't want something to die. I do it out of respect for those elders who were able to love more powerfully than the grief that would otherwise separate people from each other, so that it could be passed on to the unborn generations. Primitive skills are a gateway to something larger than life. They're an emotional empowerment. We've all felt like James at some point. Disconnected, unsure, searching for meaning, but through nature and community, we find not just answers, but belonging. James went home not just with skills, but with a fire in his soul. You can too. If you practice the skills, if you find a community that is willing to help you hone your craft because they see the passion they carry in themselves, transformation isn't just possible, it's inevitable. So the next time you decide to go outside, before you even get out of bed, I want to ask you to wake up with a sense of clarity and purpose. Know that you're equipped to face any challenge, that there's power in mastering life-sustaining skills to its most minimalist expression. That's the power of mastering primitive skills. It's not just about surviving. You're developing life-sustaining systems to a degree of craftsmanship which expresses as comfort, but it's not a debilitating crutch, a self-limiting crutch that you rely on like a remote control and a bag of chips level of comfort. It's an earned comfort that has to be maintained. And in the maintenance, you create processes. And that process is all about increasing your effectiveness, your efficiency, and the craftsmanship that you've had to hone to get to that point. You're always looking for a way to improve. Look at the hunter-gatherer nomads that make our collective ancestry. These indigenous tribes, whose daily routines were steep in connection to the land and each other, their lives simple, not stupid. They were simple but not stupid. Profound effectiveness and efficiency is primitive skills. People think the word primitive means stupid because they're looking down from a a fabricated arrogance of disconnection. Because we drive fast cars, we think we're somehow better, yet we miss every nuance, every track, every microclimb, the health of the forest, the waters. It eludes us. Our point A to point B existence makes us loud and fast and blind. But our ancestors didn't have those issues. They thrived because they knew how to work with, not against, nature. To this day, in our history as a species, the hunter-gatherer nomadic expression is the longest lasting, most successful homeostasis we have with the landscape. Today, we can choose to bring that wisdom into our modern lives. I'm not saying get rid of cars or buildings or climate control. No. But perhaps with the awareness that comes with understanding what it takes, calorie investment, time investment wise, to produce efficient, effective shelter, water, fire, and food. We look at our modern conveniences with the eyes and dexterity of a surgeon with a scalpel instead of an infant with a ball-peen hammer. Instead of allowing ourselves into the trap of dulled senses, addiction to simple carbs, and a mushy programmable mind, we stop looking at that blinking screen of a Mandela that tells us how and what to think long enough to pull our heads out of the virtual reality and into the actual natural world to check our own health, not just the backyard and its health, but as a reflection of our internal landscape. Our physical landscape doesn't lie. What does the bedroom look like? How are the piles of dishes? Did the garbage go out? These things indicate blockage, imbalance, and lack, but they stem from inaction or hyper action or unfocused action because our internal landscape is expressing our state to our external landscape. Our environment reflects who we are. And in that are so many lessons. You track yourself toward mastery of your own life. Not because it's so discouraging you want to turn it off or buy more and become a hoarder. That is a cycle of self-destruction. When the message is bring you wisdom, but instead you focused on the pain that was the delivery system instead of the actual aha moments, you develop a propensity to generate more misery. You feed what you focus. Your focus determines your reality. You can break a cycle if you see what rewards come from the stark truths that are being delivered to you every day and act upon them accordingly. What is the difference between someone who suffers from blockages, imbalances, and lack, and someone who works for balance, flow, and bounty, choice, and enough self-discipline and passion and need defined into action instead of a sense of hopelessness? That they act upon those very same feelings for very different outcomes. In our next podcast, have your notebook ready because we're going to get into the down and dirty. What are these life-sustaining systems? How do we craft them from a minimal expression into our modern daily life toward greater effectiveness, efficiency, and more productive outcomes? And what does that even mean? Hang on to your hats. We're going in. Thank you for joining me on this episode of Dear Grandchildren, A Tracker's Tale. If today's journey resonates with you, I invite you to share it with others who long for a deeper connection to nature and themselves. Don't forget to subscribe on Apple Podcasts for bonus episodes, exclusive question and answer sessions, and more tales from the wild. Your support through subscriptions, feedback, or simply spreading word keeps this flame of ancestral wisdom alive. And if you're ready to take the next step, contact the Central School at primitiveskills.com or email staff@primitiveskills.com to learn all about our workshops, experiences, lectures, expeditions, and how we can bring these teachings directly to you. Until next time, may your trails be clear and your heart full. Keep exploring and keep the fire burning.